Hello there, Minecrafters and redstone enthusiasts. So, if you're not aware, there's a bit of a, I'd say, new trend that's been going on around here. That would be fans. Fans are a pretty cool thing. I can't remember the exact name of the first person. I'll probably flash it on the screen. And then followed by Mumbo Jumbo messing around with them. But I thought that I would mess around with them and experiment a bit, and you can see I've experimented more than just a bit. I made so many different fan designs, and I'll just I just thought I'd show you around at the different things I've been working on. So the first thing I started with was a simple 5 by 5 fan, using a simple observer clock to have the design go around like this. Though it was a little weird for the animation of this, because it's a simple observer clock that goes around in a square like this. It's 3 ticks, 3 ticks, 3 ticks. And if you want a simple straight blade design, then you're going to have this trapdoor activated for twice as long as the ones around it. So it can be like a vertical, and then it goes to a horizontal, and then goes to the next one, then goes to horizontal, then vertical, all the way around. But I was able to make a simple design with that by actually, there's a pretty cool way I have to visualize it, is just breaking it down into the different slices. For the screen, as I'll call it, whatever the fan motor screen is, I have these repeaters on 2 ticks to activate each one of those corner ones for twice as long as all the others, and then the rest of it is just used as an observer. You have the simple clock here with observers taking outputs from each moment in the clock, and then I had like 2 layers of like a translation to get each single timing to activate multiple blocks. You have fence gates here, you have a door, you have trap door activating fences to update it. It's a whole mess for my first design, but I think it was pretty cool, and I was able to make it work pretty nice and neatly and only go 5 blocks back from where the actual fan is. So I think I did pretty good for my first one. What I immediately started wanting to do is break it down into individual game ticks, because if you have a simple observer clock, then the fastest rate that the fan can move by is redstone ticks. But there are 2 game ticks in each redstone tick, so I was like, there's got to be a way to break it down into individual game ticks, and that's where this first design came out with this scaffolding. Kind of messy and weird. You got a bunch of flashing laggy redstone here. You have a dropper and observer clock here with a lamp there, but overall it still works. It's only 1 blade, which kind of looks weird, but trust me, if you get into 2 blades, it's kind of not easy to tell that it's a fan at all. And as you may notice, turn this off, next to each of these fans, I have a little sign here for the rotations per minute, and then each of these others is how long it takes for a blade to go around the full thing. So it's 4 redstone ticks or 8 game ticks as it goes to each block in order to do a full rotation. And along here I had a whole bunch of iterations, and I wanted to make it smaller. First I brought it in a block so it isn't sticking out so far, and I wanted to try and find a way to get rid of this other side block. And the problem with the scaffolding is either you'd have to have one in the back or to the side in order to have it still work. So there's really no way for me to make it in a smaller footprint with the scaffolding. So eventually I decided to go on to leaves, which I want to say there is a way to compact it so you can slice off either a block from the top or bottom or a block from the side so it is in a 3 by 4 footprint. But as far as my testing went, there really was no way that I could find to just cut off that extra block. I tried a whole bunch of different things using rails, using a door, and whatnot, but ultimately they were all just the same in speed. It's just different ways to build it. Not as easy to break these down into slices because it's kind of a whole jumbled mess. It's a simple, as you can see here with the piston activating the leaves, it gets activated from the log distance, and then that's how you get the clock going around. But since it only travels 6 blocks, you need a way to activate the other 2 blocks, which was the main difficulty of, getting it compact into a smaller design. Now it does work with, if you do lamps or redstone lamps, depending on like what you're going for. Definitely like a design with lamps could be a lot quieter, but obviously this is about fans and not about loading symbols, so. And then I did over here have a 2-fan design, just as a proof of concept. I wasn't trying to get it to be small. As you can see, you gotta kind of really look at it in order to see it as a 2-blade design, or you could just slow the game down. Like a tick rate of 12, and then you can see how the animation works. Because it's working in game ticks, unless you were to have a design that breaks down 8 different 1 game tick long pulses, you have to deal with a 2 game tick long pulse. So it gives these kind of streaks in it, where it's 2 trapdoors activated as the blade at a time. And it's really kind of unavoidable without having a giant mess of getting a bunch of 1 game tick pulses. So then moving on to over here, you have these 4x4 designs that I was messing around with. Unfortunately, there was really no nice way to have a faster design with the simple redstone ticks, because you'll have to have the middle ones activated for 2 long and then the outer ones for only 1 tick, unless you want to just completely skip 1 block in each corner that never gets animated, which I really didn't want to do. It felt unnatural, but I mean, I was able to make a design here for this. Used some dispensers with snow in it in order to activate the next slice. You have the clock, the translator into these. So when this observer activates the next block, it activates the middle one, which will get activated first because there's a delay on the repeater. So it'll activate that for 2 ticks, as well as activating the next one at a later time because the dispenser with the powdered snow in it. And then I moved on to a game tick based one, and I figured that I'd stick with the leaves because it's really the easiest one to do. Unfortunately, this isn't that compact, but it was more of just proof of concept, trying to get it to work. It's again kind of hard to see the animation. It's a personal preference on what shape of the blades you think looks good or what animation works best, how fast you want it. It's all down to personal taste, but overall I was just trying to get a game tick design for each of these. Then onto my little masterpieces over here. I got a design here that doesn't have the 2 long corners, so it's 75 rotations per minute compared to 50 rotations per minute. This whole amalgamation of noises with fence gates and doors and trapdoors, but I think that looks pretty smooth for how fast it is. You can see the different slices. This one's a lot simpler because I didn't have to have such a jumbled mess. You have the simple observer screen for projecting onto the trapdoors. You have the simple pattern for the different animation frames. You can see for 1 frame it'd be these corner ones extending out, and then followed by the side ones that curl in the end in this little pinwheel pattern. Over here is the clock, which you have what powers the necessary blocks, and then here's the translation with all these doors and trapdoors flicking a whole bunch. It's a big mess to look at, but overall it makes a super compact design that only sticks out 5 blocks aside from your activation. And obviously I had to do a game tick based one at the max 150 rotations per minute. This one is more of a mess, but it still breaks down to the same thing. You have your little pattern here for the different frames. It's the same little pinwheel. You have the observer screen, the translator, and the clock. If I activate this one, you can see it in motion. This one's a bit easier to see compared to the 4x4 and 3x3 fan blade ones. I didn't turn that one off, but again, it kind of helps to slow down the game to see it. Again, you'll have to have the dealing with the trapdoors being flicked for 2 frames worth of animation, so when you slow it down, you kind of see these thick fan blades as the animation goes around. But that's, again, kind of unavoidable unless you want to break it down into a bunch of different single game tick pulses, which, you know, I'll probably do that and showcase it sometime, but as of right now, I'm trying to keep it simple and have it into a simple method of constructing these fans. Which, again, it's kind of down to personal taste of how do you want the animation to look, what looks good to you, how fast do you want it moving. But yeah, that's just kind of like my experimentation and thoughts on it. I'm honestly really excited to see what other designs other people come up with and how fast and compact and all sorts of things we can do with these fans and other little animation techniques with trapdoors. This honestly feels like it's going to be the next big thing next to piston doors, you know, if it starts catching on. But yeah, that's all that I have to show you for today.